Trump tariffs have kicked in. The government is adopting a multi-pronged strategy to support the impacted sectors. The worst hit sectors would be textiles and apparel, gems and jewelry. These are, remember, labor-intensive sectors. Most experts are of the view that these will suffer some pain in the short term, which could also include job losses, and as Indian exporters will be losing their competitive advantage after the 50% tariff. Now, to deal with this, the government is planning targeted outreach programs. Sources have told Times Now that the idea is to reach out to 40 countries and to position India as a reliable supplier of quality, sustainable and innovative textile products. And these, of course, remember, remain the top priority of the government at the moment. But as far as the tariffs are concerned, remember, there have been bizarre statements coming out of United States of America against India and Prime Minister Modi. At the moment, of course, the entire focus of the Indian government remains how to make sure that our export sector is, least harmed, least affected in all of these Trump tariffs that have come in. Let me quickly go across to my colleague Rishabh for more on this. Rishabh, what more details do you have as far as Indian government's strategy is concerned to make sure there is minimal harm to our export sector?
Well, Indian government's main focus would be the MSMEs and the small industries. Remember, small industries and MSME cater to a lot of India's export, and that sectors need to be safeguarded from this 50% additional tariff that has been slapped on us. So, and it is, contrary to our competitors in market, Vietnam, Bangladesh, or for that matter, even China has a lesser tariff than us, and we with 25% of base tariff and then 25% of additional tariff will be having a 50% tariff, and that is something that might hamper our competition in United States, and that is something that the industry is big worried about. Government of India is very clear that we will incentivize you, and we will ensure that you do not get that much of hit. How things will get in shape, it will only be time that will tell us. But majorly, what the Commerce Ministry, or for that matter, the Government of India as whole, is planning to do, to ensure that the domestic ecosystem is created such that this 50% tariff does not hit way too much to our businesses, and that is something that is being worked upon.
All right, Rishabh, stay with me. We'll keep coming back to you for more details. Let's also tell our viewers how, apart from this, the government has extended exemption on cotton import duty as well till the 31st of December. This is, remember, being seen as a move that would help the textile industry place long-term cotton import orders. This was the demand of the sector as well. Earlier, this exemption was till the 30th of September. Now, of course, it has been extended till December. Now, Trump's 50% tariff strike, remember, hit US even as a trade deal between India and America was being negotiated. So what happened to that? Is it all over now? Well, there have been 5 rounds of negotiations so far. They began in March this year. The scheduled 6th round has been postponed. It was supposed to happen on the 25th of August. India has made its point absolutely clear. It is India first, and the government will not compromise on the interests of the farmers, small entrepreneurs, as well as the fishing community. As per sources, India has kept the door open for negotiations, but they are contingent on how each country deals with the red lines. Let's also get you the breaking update coming in amid the Indo-US trade wars. The center has reassured exporters there will be no long-term impact. The assurance has been done, remember, considering industry suggestions that there's a need to diversify our exports. Expediting export promotion mission is something that the government will be focusing on as well. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the latest that is coming in as far as the tariff tussle is concerned. There have been assurances given by the Modi government to the export sector, saying there will be no long-term harm and that the impact right now will be minimal, and that the government is doing all it can to make sure that our exporters are impacted in the least manner possible. That assurance has come in, remember, after the industry had also suggested that there's a need to diversify our exports. Let me go across to Pragya, my colleague, getting us more on this. Pragya, can I understand from you then that what the government is thinking as far as diversifying our exports is concerned? This is something that the industry has suggested to the government as well.
Well, this is a two-way communication that the government is doing with the stakeholders, especially exporters, who have a lot of business in US. And in fact, this is also that this has come from the stakeholders as well. But the government on its own is also looking at ways where they can help and bail out these exporters, because the 50% tariff is a huge thing on them, and it becomes really impossible to do business with such a huge tariff. So government is also looking at views, but they're also saying that this is a challenge. We'll feel the heat a bit, but we are also working on plan B, which is we are also reaching out to other countries where your goods can be sold. There is another market. We are exploring other markets as well, and this is the reason why government has fast-tracked all these free trade agreements. And this is why we have celebrated this UK free trade agreement, and also EFTA is going to come into effect from October 1. That means the preferential and also the concessional rates will be available to India and also the exporters of India. So in a way, government is also working on its way, because there is, the thing is that you cannot just bow down to the US. Now you have seen the unreasonable demands and also unfair treatment that India has meted. This is also not in larger interest, national interest of India to just bow down to US on various things. Traders can be accommodated somewhere, but you cannot compromise on the well-being of farmers and also the dairy sector. So government has a plan B. They are reaching out. They're also be having some kind of bailout packages for them. There will be meetings with these this meeting slotted many meetings with these exporters to know where they're feeling the pinch and how can government help them out.
All right, Pragya, thanks very much for joining us at the moment with all those details. Remember, viewers, Donald Trump has been getting criticism from Democrats back home. Democrats have slammed Trump for singling out India. The Democrats on the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee have called out Trump for being unfair with India. In fact, in a statement online, they asked if it is actually about Ukraine, because by that logic, China and other countries which purchase large amount of oil from Russia would have to face sanctions and higher penalties as well. Now, that doesn't seem to be the case. In fact, only India is being penalized. Trump, via his actions against India, is going to hurt Americans and will sabotage the U.S.-India relationship as well. That is, of course, the Democrats hitting out at Donald Trump and criticizing his singling out of India. Now, is it really about Ukraine? Ladies and gentlemen, is it about fueling the Russia-Ukraine war by buying Russian oil? If that's the logic, then China should have been at number one in Donald Trump's list of tariffs. Let's quickly take you through some numbers. These are the Russian oil imports. As far as China is concerned, we have been saying it that country is the largest buyer of Russian oil, and that stood at $219.5 billion, which is about 30%. India, of course, $133.4 billion is the purchase that happens, but what is the tariff at 50%, which is one of the highest in the world. Turkey, another country which buys Russian oil at $90.3 billion of trade, that country has only 15% tariff imposed on it. And lastly, Brazil at $20 billion also has a 50% tariff that has been imposed on it. So that is these numbers, of course, reflect the kind of hypocrisy that is playing out from the White House. So one thing is clear, logic clearly doesn't apply here. There is more than what meets the eye. Now, to amplify the charge of Donald Trump, his close aide and White House advisor, Peter Navarro, has termed the Ukraine conflict as Modi's war. He's accused India of fueling Russia's war through discounted oil purchases, very conveniently forgetting that America also buys fertilizers from Russia. In fact, in an interview, he said that India will straight away get 25% reduction if it stops buying Russian oil. On this, India's message has been absolutely clear. Our decisions depend on national interest and not pressure tactics. On the other hand, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has expressed confidence that both countries would eventually find common ground despite escalating tariff tensions.
मेरी सरकार किसानों, पशुपालकों का कभी भी अहित नहीं होने देंगी। दबाव कितना ही क्यों न आए, हम झेलने की अपनी ताकत बढ़ाते जाएंगे।
वोकल फॉर लोकल बने, स्वदेशी, ये हमारा जीवन मंत्र बनना चाहिए दोस्तों। गर्व से स्वदेशी की तरफ चल पड़ो।
Now remember, we have accessed the Boris Crenshaw interview, the first secretary political of the Embassy of Russia's statement, and there he says that President Trump is all about media and don't overthink the overall policy is there. He also said that if oil is cheap, you buy it, if it's just normal economic cooperation between two countries and not funding of war. Two countries could engage in economic activities is the reasoning that the Russian official has given. Listen in to what India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, had said on this.
I mean, negotiations are still going on in the sense that nobody said the negotiations are off. You know, I mean, and people do talk to each other. I mean, it's not like there's a kutti there. So look, what happens is we have red lines.
So that was India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, making it clear that, look, even as, you know, this entire tariff tussle plays out, there are still negotiations and talks that are happening between India and United States of America, and there is perhaps still some hope, some optimism between the two countries as far as the trade deal is concerned. Let me go back to my colleague Rishabh, who's joining us on the broadcast with more on this. Rishabh, you know, India has been consistent about the fact that while all of this hullabaloo is playing out specifically online and on television interviews about the trade tussle that's going on, there are negotiations and talks that are still happening in the background, and therefore there's optimism between the two countries that a trade deal can be reached and can be reached soon.
Well, we need to understand something. The system in America and system in India is not as such that one person dictates it all. While there is a lot of chatter on social media, on media interviews, and you know the statements after statements that are coming in, there are meetings happening. The transactional meeting happened, 2+2 transactional meeting happened just 2 days ago, where the outcome, be it from India or be it from the United States, the outcome language was very positive. It was talking about Quad and Indo-Pacific. It was talking about defense partnership and the extension of defense partnership for another 10 years once it ends in 2025. We all know that GE 404 engines are being talked about between HAL and GE in United States. You know, there are a lot of partnerships on defense front. There are a lot of partnerships on other aspects as well, including the cultural front for that matter. So it's not that it is a complete radio silence between Washington and New Delhi. The channels are open. Yes, there are hiccups that one can see, and that's what External Affairs Minister was very categorically stating, that yes, there are hiccups, but talks are on, negotiations are on. Many within the government of India even suggest that this whole 50% tariff is momentary thing and things will get better by the fall, is what we're given to understand. We might have the BTA still being signed sometime later this year or early next year for that matter. Many within the government of India even suggest that a Quad will also happen, which means that Donald Trump might travel to India for that matter.
Yeah.
As of now, it looks like a distant happening, but many suggest that in diplomacy, nothing is distant, nothing is immediate. So we'll have to wait on that front, but External Affairs Minister is still sounding very positive. The outcome documents that are coming in from the meetings that are happening at official level, the outcome documents from those meetings are also very positive. Remains to be seen whether this positivity will be seen in form of trade as well or not.
Right, Rishabh, thanks very much for joining us at the moment, putting this into perspective, how the India-US trade tussle is ongoing and playing out. Of course, there is still some hope left as far as the trade deal and the relationship between the two countries is concerned. We'll keep getting you the latest on that. Right now, it's time for a short break.